Hi, during today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some information which I wish had been shared with me sooner than it was. I didn't learn this until I was in my 30s, but if you share this information with your child, it could have a significant impact on not only their first day at school this academic year, but on their entire year. So very soon your child's going to be starting school for this year. They might be going back to a school that they attended last year. They might be starting a brand new school, but either way, your child's going to be coming into contact with a lot of people, obviously their classmates, but as well teachers and learning assistants, lots of different people. And so we're going to be looking at forming relationships with these people that are going to be significant over the next year at least. And your child, like all of us, is likely to have already decided to a certain extent what parts of their first day they're going to be looking forward to and what parts they're not looking forward to. So it usually doesn't take very long for the kind of excitement of the first day to wear off and for kids to be talking about how school sucks and there's too many assignments and the teachers don't like them and so isn't friends with them anymore and they just can't do it, they're just not bright enough, and there's just so much negativity and it's really hard to know how to handle that. So your child probably doesn't realise quite how significant a role our thinking plays in our overall experience of not only situations but of people and our relationships with them. So during today's video I'm going to share with you 6 different thinking traps as identified by Martin Seligman and Aaron Beck, and these are rigid thinking patterns which actually block us from receiving critical information. So we're all aware that our thinking drives our behaviour, and if you've been seeing unproductive or counterproductive behaviour in your child, the likelihood is that these thinking traps are partly to blame for that. So by identifying them, we'll be able to kick those problems right up the arse. So what are these thinking traps? The first one, and like the homelands for all other thinking traps, is referred to as jumping to conclusions. I'll go into more depth about these in a moment. The second one is mind reading, where you assume that you know what other people are thinking or what's going to happen. Then we have thirdly, me, where you are the root cause of all things. Fourthly, we have them, where situations only come about as a result of what other people are doing and other things are happening. Fifth on the list, we have always. And then finally, we have everything. I'm going to talk through each of these individually, providing some ways to counter these thought traps so that you can actually catch yourself in the moment and kill it before too much damage is done. So the problem with jumping to conclusions is you reach a decision about a given person or a situation before you've actually given them the opportunity to show otherwise. And so if you're able to catch yourself in these thought processes, what you need to do is slow yourself down and ask yourself questions like, what are you basing this on? Are you giving this person or this subject a fair chance? Are the other people around you experiencing the same thing? If not, how is it different? It's the same class, it's the same teacher. How can somebody else get a different experience from? So the next thinking trap I'm going to talk about is mind reading, and this is one which we tend to use regularly within closer relationships. So it might be your child's friends, it might be the teachers with whom they come into fairly regular contact, and it's when they think that they know what the other person is either going to say or what they're going to do. And the problem with this particular thinking trap is that it puts a real block on communication. So the way to stop it is to actually ask the following questions. Have I spoken up? Have I expressed myself clearly? Have I asked for information? If we're able to stop and do these things, it can really stop that thinking trap from being its vicious self on us. So the next thinking trap is called me. And I think all of us at certain stages of our life have experience of this particular way of thinking, but I think it's especially predominant in teenagers. The teenage years are renowned for being very self-conscious, and if you imagine every situation being as a result of something that you have done or you have said, that's going to lead to a lot of guilt, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of sadness, and those emotions can then create a knock-on effect which can be counterproductive. So what we need to do at this point is actually stop ourselves and say, well, what other circumstances might have contributed to this particular situation? What other people might have contributed to this? And to gain a bigger perspective. So this fourth thinking trap called them is, as the name suggests, everybody else is to blame for what has happened to me. When a negative event occurs, it's never our fault. This is the pattern of thinking that's so rigid that it blocks any fault or culpability of ourselves and passes it all to external circumstances and other people. And the problem with this is it can really create a victim mentality, which is not going to help your child to become more resilient. It's going to do the absolute opposite. So it's really counterproductive in the results that you get from this mentality. The way that you can stop this thinking in its tracks is to flip it over and to actually start to look more inwardly. Opposite to the last thinking trap advice, you actually have to stop and think, well, what did I do? What could I have done? How have I contributed to this situation? Now, the fifth thinking trap is called always, always, always. And this is when you fall into the trap of thinking, well, this is never going to change. It's always going to be like this. And it creates a real counterproductive mentality of powerlessness. And to go through your teenage years feeling that you have absolutely no control over anything is not accurate. Whilst teenagers don't have control over lots of things, admittedly, they do have control over many things. And so this mentality, the quicker and the earlier that this is identified and stopped, the better. And the way to go about doing this is by actually stopping and thinking, well, in this given situation, what do I have control over? In this fallout with my friend, how can I have an impact on the outcome? What can I do to influence what's going to happen from this point moving forward? So it's highly unlikely that your child is going to only experience one of these thinking traps. It's far more probable that they have 2 to 3 different thinking traps that they default to in any given situation. A particularly problematic combination is number 5 and number 6. So the always, 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 and that everything, everything, everything. If over time you believe that you're powerless and that there's nothing that you can do, and that one event is going to impact all others negatively, that can be a very negatively powerful combination. So this last thinking trap is everything, everything, everything. And this is where we believe that based on one single event, one single thing that somebody has said or done, that's them. It's where character assassination comes from. And imagine in a school situation that can be particularly detrimental. If a teacher puts a foot wrong on the first day or the second day, I mean, teachers don't always get everything 100% right, naturally so. But your child might then have tainted them and judged them. That's how they're going to respond all of the time. It's also an inability to compartmentalise, where you think that one negative event is going to lead to everything else being impacted like a domino effect. And obviously in a school situation, or actually in any situation, but particularly when you're a teen and you don't feel that you have much control over things, this way of thinking is going to serve so counterproductively in all areas of your life. So the way to break the rigid pattern of everything thinking is to get specific. You need to break things down in your thinking and say, ask yourself the question, well, what particular event led to this? What particular circumstance has caused this outcome? So that's a brief snippet of what the key thinking traps are that tend to hinder our young people from really achieving their best, and these thinking traps are responsible for undercutting resilience, and they're the root cause of a lot of behaviours which are counterproductive. So I really hope to have given you a little bit of a taster. If you want to find out a little bit more about these particular thinking traps and ways that you can combat them, then let me know in the comments below after subscribing to my channel.